in a galaxy far, far away. You don't know the joke I'm gonna make yet. Shut up. Shut up.
That's so trite.
Exactly. That's what the joke I was.
And you didn't even say a long time ago. You just said in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, wow.
It was oh
Larry,
my God.
Larry, you just revoked your hosting privileges. We thought you were ready. You're clearly not ready.
Clearly.
Just come on.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Wow. Thank you guys so much. I did have a legitimate joke.
Well, do you want to tell it?
No, admittedly, it was nowhere near as good as how that intro turned out.
All right.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to CinemaTalk, the official weekly podcast on RuleThirds.com. My name is Larry Freed, as always, and with me is Sean Capoville and Max Mariner, my two lovely side co-hosts. How are we, gentlemen?
That's a new one. Side co-hosts.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that one out too.
I said lovely co-host.
No, you said side co-host.
Sight.
Oh.
Lovely sight.
Well, if we're talking about the site, we're co-directors. We gave ourselves a cool title.
Co-directors, co-producers,
We
co-founders.
gave ourselves incredibly pedantic and pretentious titles, Larry. We've gone over this.
That's the thing. We're the only three people on the site. We get to award
We're the only
ourselves
three
with
people
cool
that visit the
titles.
site, too.
We get to give ourselves
burn.
high-up names and interesting positions.
Anyway, we should probably actually get to the stream.
Yes,
Larry, go
right.
ahead.
So we have a very interesting discussion today. But before we do that, two great things went up on the site. Two interesting things. We had the preview on 50 Shades of Grey.
I would like to point out that I lied Actually, Max lied last podcast because he said that it had gone up when he should have known it hadn't just by double checking. It clearly wasn't on the site. I mean, it's all Max's fault.
Clearly.
All of it.
It's always Max's fault.
Yeah, but it is up now. I'm looking at it right now as recording. It is there. Preview 10.
I don't believe you, Sean.
UX.
I'm gonna delete it as soon as the podcast goes up, just to mess with people.
And I posted my recommendation Domination on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because nobody else wanted to.
Yeah, because I couldn't. That's the thing. I tried really hard. Yeah, that's an actual thing. I'm glad Larry brought that up. That was an actual thing. I was supposed to do an RD on TMNT, but I could not think of anything because I'm so indifferent towards that film. So I'm glad you brought that up.
I literally remembered the planning stage. We were like sitting there, like, okay, we need to do an RD. It's like Sean. The first thing he said, I can't.
Yep.
I can't do it.
I couldn't do it.
I'm so indifferent. I'm like, I guess I'll do it. Yeah. So I posted that up. Be sure to take a look at that. Now, on to today's discussion. Unfortunately, there's not that much topical stuff going on. The closest we've gotten is Jennifer Lawrence's nudes being hacked, but I don't give any craps about that. So we're just going
invasion of privacy.
Yeah. Okay. Here's our podcast on that. Don't be hacking.
Yeah. Don't
respect
hack
privacy.
nude images.
End of story.
And then don't tell them not to do that. Like, don't tell like the celebrities to not do that when you clearly just invaded their privacy.
Yeah.
Actually, Max, in keeping with the theme of our podcast, we should end with it's okay to hack for nude photos if you do it well.
And
I'm kidding.
Don't
Never
get caught. But apparently that guy got caught, and then he got hacked.
The real point is just don't be a jerk.
Wow, you were building up something much harsher than that, Larry.
Well, I don't know. I was thinking, I don't know. Just
don't be a fucking prick.
Yeah, there you go.
Well said.
Don't
anyway.
hack nudes. So we decided we're gonna do one of our geek out videos.
As in every one of our videos.
Yeah,
but there are some videos like when we did a Marvel Cinematic Universe, we just wanted to talk Marvel Cinematic Universe. So guess what we're talking about today? Star Wars.
Star Wars.
We are talking speculation for Star Wars Episode VII, as Sean so beautifully sings the theme song behind my talking.
I'm just going to sing that the whole time.
By the way, just so you guys know, Sean is our resident Star Wars nut.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, seriously, keep going. No, this is beautiful ambience.
Also, it's really nice because I'm editing this episode, so I don't have to put in music if the whole time I'm just doing Star Wars stuff. I'm going to take from the prequel now.
Let's record the whole thing, and then afterwards just record an hour long of you just doing the Star Wars theme. So, as some of you know, have seen on the news, production for Star Wars Episode VII has begun again, thanks to Harrison Ford recovering from his leg injury. And we've seen a lot of interesting updates happening throughout Star Wars Episode VII production. As we mentioned last episode, we saw the hand, we saw the robotic hand holding the letter.
We did see a robotic hand.
We also have seen shots of X-Wings. We've seen the new troopers. We've also seen Tatooine. And J.J. Abrams has been giving little tiny, spurts of pictures, and we also have the cast.
That is so J.J. Abrams of him.
Yep.
So J.J. Abrams. So we just want to sit down. And we're all fans of Star Wars. We've all seen
I'm standing
the
up,
movies.
Larry. I don't know about you guys. I'm standing up.
Why?
Okay.
Man, it's a podcast. It's relaxed.
Max is standing up. That's fine. We don't discriminate against preference of seating or standing.
Hey, if you're sitting or standing is a choice.
I mean, you can't be funny sitting down. That's why it's called stand-up comedy.
Boo.
Oh,
Well,
boom.
clearly, standing
we
up
go.
doesn't mean you are funny, Max.
Ooh,
And that's why
snap.
I'm never funny in any video ever.
Finger snap.
Finger snap. So we're not really gonna base around a certain sequence here. We're
Right,
just
this is
gonna
just
talk.
this is just speculation
Star Wars.
and a wish list. Like, here's what I want.
Yeah,
Here's what
I
I
think
think this means.
I think personally, this is the best time to do Episode 7 speculation because there's only so very
Right.
little information.
That's
and
why
plus, we can't there's nothing we can go off of outside of cast names
Mm-hmm.
and the existence of an X-wing and the existence of a new stormtrooper helmet. That's it.
The
Yeah, that's why
existence of
we're-
an X-wing.
That's
But
why
I
we're
think
doing
that
it
says a
early.
lot. But let's just get this on. Let's get this show on the road.
But I do hear, I've heard some words from people who have seen the set. Very practical.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
movie
that's
is
Really?
incredibly
Interesting.
practical effects. Yes, I can tell just by looking at some of these photos. Abrams is going all out, and I admire that a
Yeah,
lot.
to be honest, I think CGI can start fading down when it's needed. Of
Yes.
course, go all out, but I think we can make room, and I think I don't think there is a bigger name in pop culture than Star Wars.
As far as franchises are concerned, there
Right.
are only a
So I
few
think-
that can even mount that kind of stature that Star Wars has built itself.
So I think this is a good time to make a stand and say, hey, here's what practical effects can look like, here's how good they can look,
Yes.
and voila. So
Yes,
that's a
I
good way
would
to start, just
love-
saying the approach
yes.
is great. I love
I
the
would
approach.
love if Star Wars could kind of bring back a bit of a renaissance of practical effects, because we've seen
Yeah.
so many upgrades in visual effects with motion capture
Mm-hmm.
and 3D and all this stuff, and that's been cornering the market ever since Avatar. So I would James Cameron Avatar, obviously. I would love if this film could kind of show producers and directors that there is room for practical effects.
Yeah, and I'm not anti-CGI by any means, but I just think there's room
you
for
need
both.
to have CGI. CGI is a very great form of movie making. There's a lot of great things you can do with it. But it's
ILM?
always good to remember. What?
ILM, Industrial Light and Magic.
Oh, Industrial Light and Magic.
The
right.
Wizards.
I couldn't hear what you said.
Basically,
Exactly,
the closest
right.
things to computer wizards the world has ever seen.
Pretty much. I actually this reminds me a lot of the story that broke a while back. Industrial Light and Magic was working on real-time CGI.
Yeah.
Star Wars. This was a while ago.
Now, do you think they're
I
going
don't
to use
know if
that
that's
for
gonna
Episode 7?
happen.
If
I
there's,
don't know, and that's what I was going to bring up.
I don't think so.
I don't think they will, because again, practicality is a big shift here. But I do think that it'd be interesting to have the Star Wars main trilogy use it in some form. I don't think they have to base an entire movie around it, but maybe in certain scenes or segments.
Yeah.
I'd love to see it actually tested, because the footage looked decent. It actually looked like it could work. It obviously
It
needs to
did
go
dip
through
into the
planning
uncanny
process.
valley of movement a bit.
Yeah, that is something that
a little bit. You always have to worry about the uncanny valley, especially when you're dealing with humanoid characters. The great thing about Star Wars is that it never really got there, because the models would always look the characters whenever they, like Greedo. Let's talk about Greedo for a sec. He's when I ever think of Star Wars like weird looking characters, but yet they're not like in the uncanny valley at all. Greedo comes up first, because he looks so weird, but yet you're put in a universe in which you're allowed to accept that. You'll
and
accept
also
the fact
that
they
scene
all
you're
just
allowed to
look
accept
crazy.
it. I think, we need more. CGI aliens can be cool and all that, but practical aliens work as well.
Yes, makeup. There's so much great makeup work being done in so many different movies nowadays. I think it'd be great if they could do that. I mean, just imagine how beautiful this movie can look.
Yeah.
on so many different scales.
While we're on the subject of practical effects, fun fact, did you know that the director of The Rocketeer and Captain America the First Avenger worked on the special effects for Empire Strikes Back? In fact, I believe he's the creator of Yoda.
Cool.
Really?
I thought that was Frank Oz.
Oh, well, okay, Frank Oz voiced him. I'm pretty... Okay,
That's
Joe
not
Johnston
creator.
I
is
knew
the
he
name.
voiced him.
Yeah,
knew he
yeah,
voiced
Frank
him.
Oz voiced Yoda. Maybe he was like one of the main minds behind, I think, Dagobah. I think that's it. Yeah,
Okay,
he created
there
the
we go.
world of Dagobah.
Well,
I think
I-
it's pretty cool.
Yes.
So, can we move on from the practical stuff?
Yeah.
Yes.
Go think- okay.
I think that's more less speculation and more like, this is what's happening.
Right.
Like,
Another thing before we get to just future speculation, I want to point out, I want to really quickly go around to give our thoughts on. Okay, basically, I want to say that I cannot think of a better team to give this to. This
as far
movie.
As production.
What?
Right. In terms of directing, in terms of cast, it's just this is the way to do it.
Pretty much. There are so many interesting methods that are being used throughout the production of this film. I love the casting. I think we should. I want to move on to that next. The casting in particular.
Well, I think Max is about to object to what I said.
Oh boy. Here we go.
I don't know. I mean, J.J. Abrams is a flashy filmmaker. I don't think he's got a lot of
Literally flashy.
Yeah.
Like irises.
I'm not. I don't know, and I don't mean that in like a stupid lens flare joke kind of way. Because
I do.
If there's one of the most shallow like remarks you can make about anything in movies that J.J. Abrams does lens flares, you know what? Fine, he does.
It's
but
distracting.
Whatever. It's also
stop.
because
I don't even want to talk about it. I'm sick of it.
It's really sickening, honestly, to have people boil down entire filmmakers down to 2 or 3.
Well, I mean,
words.
I'm not saying J.J. Abrams is an untalented filmmaker. I'm just saying it's a bad
Well, I'd say that he's not exactly
kick.
the most talented filmmaker to take on Star Wars.
Okay, who else would you have take on Star Wars?
Well, I mean,
That's very
Disney already beat
true,
me to the
though.
punch with Ryan Johnson because he's a really good
he's
sci-fi
getting
writer.
one.
He's great.
Yeah, I know.
He's
That's
doing
why I
great.
think one
He's a great
direct
choice.
all of the movies.
I personally like that they're not doing everyone. They're not giving one director the entire trilogy. I like that they're doing that personally.
Yeah, and that's how
like that
the
too.
original trilogy was.
It's right. It's J.J. Abrams, and then Ryan Johnson is going to direct the next one. Then he's going to write the final one.
Hold on,
Yeah,
Ryan
well, he's
Johnson.
writing and directing Episode 8, and then he's writing Episode 9.
Are you
Yeah.
sure his name's Ryan Johnson?
Yes, it's
Yes.
Ryan
How do you-
Johnson.
How do you spell that?
R-I-A-N.
Okay, well that's why. That's not a name.
What?
That's not a name.
I believe that's the name of the main character in Gravity, Ryan. Ryan Stone.
In the same
So I mean, that's
spelling?
totally a name. Totally a name.
It's okay. Off the subject of the realness of people's names.
Nope, that's the new topic of this podcast. And no, Ryan Stone is spelled with a Y and an A.
Really?
Just a Y. Yes.
Oh.
I'm looking at the IMDb.
That's
IMDb
insane.
Hey, originality, man. He sets himself apart.
Whatever.
That's how
so,
I see it.
I would counter with, I think it's already abundantly clear that it was the right team because their approach. I could not think of a better approach. Like they're approaching this completely perfectly. Emphasis on practical effects, the inclusion of the fans with little hints, the way they're bringing back the old cast, but it doesn't seem like in super important ways as to
I've
just
heard
be
otherwise. I've heard they're bringing him back in super important ways, and I think that's stupid.
maybe Solo. That's what I've heard, but otherwise I haven't heard that they're
Solo.
major.
So
I certainly hope so. I want them to be at the beginning of the film, and then maybe one of them dies or something, just
I
like
have
to
a
show
theory.
that for some reason like they get killed by the enemy, whoever that is. But we'll get to that later. Larry, you want to talk about the cast?
I would like to touch upon them.
Yeah,
because
that's what we
there
were
are
kind
a
of already
lot
talking about, Max. I don't think you
there-
needed to interrupt with the
There
segue.
are a lot of bright faces in this cast. I
Well,
want to actually
bright new people.
bring up the names. One of them specifically I want to bring out. Well, actually, there's two. The first one is Lupita Nyong'o, who was who's become a big name now ever since her role in 12 Years a Slave.
Definitely. Actually, I thought it was
she's grown a
before,
fan
but
base.
yeah.
Well, I mean, she might have been known before. I mean, like Chiwetel Ejiofor, who was also the star of 12 Years a Slave, had roles beforehand, but nobody really knew him.
That's not
until-
true. He was much more prolific then.
Okay, could we
Nyong'o.
go through these casts and just kind of make a guess as to what kind of character they could be? Like, I can see Lupita Nyong'o as a Jedi Master. Like, this has been a few decades after the original
There
trilogy.
won't be any Jedi Masters.
I think there will be because there will be
because
it'll be a very small
Skywalker.
number, but there will be a few, and she will be
Skywalker's the Jedi Master, and he's going to be the oldest Jedi because he
Yeah.
was the last one,
That's
and
what I
now he's
was
starting
thinking.
his new order. So I don't think we'll have any Jedi Masters.
okay, fine, no Jedi, but she will be an experienced
Also, she's way
Jedi.
too young. She's way too young to be a Jedi Master.
Is she?
Well, that
Yeah.
well, okay. Listen, it's
Episode
not like
3,
you can-
Revenge of the Sith. Remember? It was a big deal. He was way too young to be on the council and given the rank of Jedi Master.
Fine, okay.
Right.
She's a more experienced Jedi than the main
Yes.
character. I don't think.
Yes,
Nyong'o
I can
will
definitely
be,
see that. Sorry, I'm again, a nerd.
He's a nut here, and that's good because we need that kind of basis. Now, another one I also want to bring up, and I think I really do want to kind of drive into this, is Andy Serkis.
Yeah.
Andy
Okay.
Serkis is in the movie, and I want to know. I want to bring out this question: Do you think he'll be in it himself, or do you think he's going to do a motion capture?
Well, I certainly hope he's doing motion capture, because I'm sure he's a good actor. Right?
But they're practical. They're going practical, though.
Right, but here's the thing. I'm sure Andy Serkis is a good actor, because he's good in mocap. I'm sure that translates well enough to not mocap. But what is the point of getting Andy Serkis?
Andy frickin' Serkis.
That's what he's best at. He's the best.
King.
He's the best at motion capture.
He is the best. Gollum, Caesar, two incredible roles. But I have to say, as much as I love Andy Serkis' mocap, and I hope he has some sort of that in this movie, I assume anything that's CGI is going to be something a lot more bigger in scope, if they were going to do something non-practical. So that's really interesting to me. But I do want to see him actually show his chops in a more mainstream light, because I don't think many people are aware that Serkis can act like as himself, not making animal sounds to a camera. He's a great actor on his own merit. And I feel if he can get that kind of a role in this kind of a mainstream movie, I feel that'd be great. He can kind of balance out both ways.
But
he can be seen as a great mocap and a great... I'm not saying he shouldn't do mocap. I think he should do a mocap in this film, and I think it's going to be great if he does it. But I'm just saying it'd also be good to have him used practically as well. But, I mean, that's probably the most prolific member of the cast that's not a guy coming back. Mm-hmm. We obviously have... Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill.
We're not quite done with the new cast.
I know. I was just mentioning names that are coming back. Okay, but I don't think we need to talk about them that much.
Well, personally, I just want to bring up that I love that they are coming back.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. I think it's a great way to
just
connect
dropping it would make no sense.
But I will counter that with, where the hell is Billy D. Williams?
He's going to be in episode 8. He wasn't in episode 4, was he?
Well, okay. No,
that's my theory. That's not confirmed at all, but that would be a good way to handle it. It wasn't episode 4, he was introduced in 5.
I loved how charismatic Lando was, and it would be great to see him again.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
it just makes a little more sense if he's there too. I don't know. Maybe he'll make a cameo or something.
I don't think he's out of the trilogy. I think they'll bring him back, but maybe not in a major role.
Yeah.
We have Domhnall Gleeson, who was in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows and a bunch of others.
Yeah. What do you think, villain?
No.
Villain?
No, the villain is
I know exactly who the villain's going to be.
Adam Driver, right?
No, almost Max von Sydow.
I think Max von Sydow is the ultimate villain, but I think Adam Driver is the dragon. Are you familiar with that phrase?
No.
No? Judging by your silence, I don't think you get that. I don't think you know that term. So the dragon is what Darth Vader was to the Emperor. It's always that second in command that the main character is actually coming back.
And that's what I thought you meant. But, her sidekick. He turned into a dragon.
No, not a sidekick. Not a sidekick.
Just the second in command.
Right.
Is what you're saying.
So,
I get that. I understand what you're talking about.
So that's what I think. So Adam Driver is going to be the one actually going out doing evil stuff. Meanwhile, Max von Sydow is going to be sitting there being all evil, telling him to do those evil things. So
he's going to be the real the real bad guy.
Tyrannus was the dragon. Darth Maul was the dragon. That's all the Sith is. The Master is the head villain, and then they have their dragon, and that's just a trope.
Yeah, but with casting Max von Sydow, a legendary actor who worked with the great Ingmar Bergman, I'm really hoping that they don't just basically reiterate Darth Vader and the Emperor. I really hope
they won't. I think they're going to be smart about this because they've also said that Vader will be returning in flashbacks, which I think is awesome.
That makes sense. Now, I have a theory regarding Darth Vader. Okay, so Luke is training the new cast, right? He's doing all these things. By the way, Luke, Mark Hamill sporting an Alec Guinness beard.
I wanted to get to that. Yes.
Okay.
If you haven't seen the photo, he has pretty much an Obi-Wan beard, and you should look it up because it's amazing.
I saw it. Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm talking to the audience.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the
audience,
third generation.
So
guys.
I'm thinking that Darth Vader will appear like he's training the Jedi, like he's training the new kids, and he keeps seeing Vader because he's afraid that that's what they're going to turn into. That having the Jedi means that we will have a Vader. Maybe that's what the movie will be all about.
Here's the problem.
Evil
Max.
is inevitable if you bring in power. Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
See, the problem with that is that we already have some plot details.
We do?
Yes, and that's not the case. According to... Well, okay. This is leaked stuff from quite a few sources.
I don't like leaks.
I know. But we should talk about it. That's what this podcast is about. Basically, the film opens with Luke's lightsaber falling onto a planet. And the two new characters, I can't remember who, find it. And they get in contact with Han Solo to go find Luke.
Really? It's not about the children of Luke Skywalker? I mean,
no,
then again,
they have not
Luke
said
Skywalker, there is
anything about that.
Luke Skywalker doesn't have any... Actually...
So it's a quest for Luke?
Well, at least that's how it starts. Like, I mean, episode 4 started with a quest to get to Alderaan, and that kind of blew up in their face. Am I right, guys?
That's true. But
am I right?
Yeah. Good one.
Going back to last week's topic, I still don't like the idea of just like having leaks for all this stuff. I mean, I don't know.
Yes, I know, but we had to bring it up because it's all about the speculation. And again, that's not confirmed. That's just I've seen it from multiple people. I've seen it enough that it's like this seems to be a lot of people were saying, yeah, that's what it's about. But again, not confirmed. With Oscar Isaac, I don't know anything about.
He was in a pretty good film last year.
Not saving. Inside Llewyn Davis.
Inside Llewyn Davis.
Yeah, now
Llewyn Davis. It was a Coen Brothers movie.
I didn't find it very memorable, but I thought it was because I couldn't even remember it. But I thought it was a well-made film.
And then Daisy Ridley and John Boyega.
Okay, Daisy Ridley. Like I think everybody said this by now. Her life has changed forever. She was like a TV actress, barely, and now she
is going to be the main.
She's gotta be. She's young enough. She's got
side of the heroes of the.
I hope Boyega also has a large role.
I also want Isaac to have a.
However,
role also.
I saved one for last. I don't know why. Gwendolyn Christie.
Oh right, that person's in the movie also.
She is awesome.
Who's that?
Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
actress.
She's one of the best characters in Game of Thrones. So
she clearly has the background for it.
Yeah, but I hope. See, that's what I'm kind of worried about. Part of me loves the idea of just like take Brienne, give her lightsaber, and like that's the character. But I also don't want her to be, to fall into that role and to be typecast. So actually, you know what, Max? I could see more being the wiser, experienced Jedi more than Lupita Nyong'o. Actually, she's a bit older. I don't know. Just seeing her in Game of Thrones, she has more presence. She could come across as like the first apprentice Luke took or something like that. I think she could pull that off. But
I kind of agree with that.
We don't know.
I can see that definitely happening. It's so hard because there's so many different directions that you can go.
Also, if anyone's watched Game of Thrones, the Star Wars comparison with... that's way too complicated of a hint. Forget it. Okay,
excellent. So we talked about the cast. Let's talk about locations for a bit. Locations and overall just aesthetics.
Right. Here's what I think they should do.
Okay.
People complain that the prequels didn't get to the idea of Star Wars, which stupid. George Lucas directed it, but I do think he was off a little bit. People say Star Wars is a Western, and it is. It's supposed to be these rugged backwater planets and these systems of scum and villainy. However, Coruscant's really cool. Kamino's really cool.
Yeah, I really want those new
places. All the new places are really cool. So I say, mix it. Don't go one or the other. Because we don't see many shiny, cool places in the original trilogy, and that's a slight downfall. And we don't see too many rugged stuff in the prequel, that we do have some Tatooine and, more importantly, Geonosis.
I would love a mix. I think it could actually give a lot of interesting, political... Like the shiny planets and the dusty planets.
Well, we will get to
shiny and why not?
The undertones of what the movie could be later on. But here's what I'm thinking. Every time we have a new planet introduced, it just like introduces in like, oh, it's always been there. What if we could have like a new civilization discovered around the same time as Episode 7's like chronological? I think that'd be really cool because they've never done that before.
Yeah, but that makes no sense. Like that's just such a weak thing to do about Star Wars. That's a Star Trek storyline. They find this new civilization on a planet,
especially Insurrection.
That's exactly what happened then.
They discover a new civilization that doesn't use technology.
Except they kind of do.
Yeah, they kind of. Whatever. Of course, they obviously do. But that's a different movie, different discussion. I do think that's a great idea, Sean. I'm glad you brought that up.
Because, do a mix.
Yes, do a mix because not only could that have our eyes feast on some other things and keep the film kind of interesting as far as aesthetically, it also could add some brilliant political undertones.
Sure, because I like the politics stuff in the prequels.
Oh my god, the sequence in Episode 1 where they're talking about the history of just overall history of not Palpatine. What's it? Anakin sitting down and learning about the history of the Sith.
Oh.
No, that was Episode 3.
It was 3? I thought it was...
Yeah, how is it 1? He's talking to Anakin.
Right. It's 3.
Do you mean when he's talking about like the Darth guy who...
Darth Plagueis the White.
Yes, that's it.
Come on,
that
guys.
Was a good scene.
It's like you haven't even memorized those movies. Jeez. I may have memorized those movies.
Right. That scene is one of my favorite sequences in episode 3. And I personally am one of the only people I know who thinks that episode 3 is a legitimately good Star Wars film.
I say episode 3 is a good movie.
Yeah, I love
I think episode 3 has some great sequences.
And episode 2 I think is okay, but I love it to death because it was my favorite as a kid. Episode 1 I just avoid. It's okay.
Yeah, episode 1. I think episode 1 has good parts, but it's overall just kind of a mess.
Yeah. But instead of just talking about things that people have talked about literally millions of times by now.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But I want to move on to the undertones.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
So
politics.
I think in order to do that, like, in order to do it justice, I think it's best to talk about what were the undertones of the Star Wars original trilogy and prequels, and how can that factor into what this first movie or the trilogy, this new trilogy, will be all about.
So pretty much, Max, what we're getting at is you're turning this CinemaTalk into the next thought process.
What? No.
Well, I mean, it's easier,
process.
and it'll be
Finally,
out faster. I mean, see, we'll keep making those jokes until we get in episode 2. So you better chop. But seriously, okay, go ahead, Max. You clearly have an idea of what you want to talk about with the other two trilogies. So you can kick us off.
Well, the first Star Wars trilogy is about this, the Star Wars saga. I think George Lucas said this. The Star Wars saga is about the cycle of government, the cycle of civilization. How there was a government, it fell, people came back, took it down, brought it back up, and then somebody else came and took it down. Like it's just a never-ending cycle of just death and politics and everything. So how will the new trilogy add to that? I mean, you can't just you have a Star Wars movie it's kind of weird how the Star Wars movies kind of take from all different kinds of influences, especially with politics and history. So, what are they going to do with Episode 7 that'll, be allegorical to both history and just the way things have been?
Well, I've always seen the rise of Palpatine to be identical to Caesar's taking control of Rome, in that it was a democracy. He came in, rose up a bunch, and people liked him. And then, in this time of struggle, he said, give me the powers of a dictator, and guys, I'm not kidding here, I will totally give them back when it's all over. Totally. Guys, listen to me. Listen to me.
Come on.
I will never...
It's just kind of like how Hitler was like, dude, guys, I will totally not invade Czechoslovakia. You can count on me.
No, but seriously, it is almost identical. How it was a democracy, but they gave all the powers to one person in a time of desperation, and they never gave it up. You know, the Emperor, they both become Emperor, literally have the exact same title. Actually, Caesar never becomes Emperor. Hell, also Vader betrays him. Whoa. Interesting.
What?
At 2, Vader. Darth Vader betrays him, just like Brutus betrays Caesar. Anyway, spoilers, by the way, Brutus betrays Caesar.
Wildly like Tarzan as he betrays him. At least in the newer version.
Yeah, but anyway, the point I'm getting at is, that was kind of the first arc of the prequel, where it's democracy turned to... what's the...
Dictatorship?
Pretty much dictatorship. And then the original trilogy didn't quite follow through, because what happened with the Roman Empire was just a succession of emperors, and then it just dwindled out. There was no fall of the Roman Empire. It was more of a slow descent to the floor. So, they could do something like that with the new trilogy, where they show that it's this bright new future that they've forged in these 30 years. It's starting to look great. But like you were saying, maybe Luke has doubts, or other characters have doubts, and by the end of the trilogy, we see it falling apart, and they can't do anything because it's not this drastic fight against evil, and the Death Star, and the Emperor. It's just this gradual decline, and they're losing what they had built. That could be very interesting. I don't know how much of that would be in Episode 7.
That's a good point, Professor Captiville. Now,
why, thank you.
In that same regard, what if... No, this is not a fully developed idea. Never mind. Sorry.
Okay.
I thought I was
like
onto
your
something.
Idea. I like Sean's idea. I think that would be very interesting.
But also, that we have to bring in the fact that this is a trilogy, and not just a trilogy. I will be unbelievably shocked if they don't do a trilogy after 9.
Yeah,
well,
I think...
They're going to wait a while.
Yeah, they're going to
do
standalone. They're
standalone.
going to do it.
We're in our 40s by the time Episode 12 comes out, probably.
Which I've already called to direct. Remember that tweet? I called it. So no one try to do it.
Sorry guys. He's got it.
At Disney headquarters, okay, we're going to hire this prestigious director. Ah, dang it, guys! I just read this tweet.
I'll take 10. I'll take 10, and then you can call it Star Wars X.
Yeah.
Boom.
Well, anyway, we have to put it in that context, because Star Wars was, here's the end of the story. Oh, let's tell how it started. Now it's like this full-on continuous series, one trilogy / they'll, I guess, building on another. So my theory of just kind of showing like they'll eventually lose control, even like maybe that's the Jedi Order's new purpose, is to just fight as long as they possibly can to keep it the way it is, but inevitably they know it's going to fall apart. That's going to be hard to do when we do have an episode 10, because we have 7, 8, 9. If that's the theme of 7, 8, 9,
anything until they're done with episode 9. Until like
I hope not. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, I think that's a decent idea. Like, they could pull it off well, but I don't know if they could pull it off well in this context, where it's probably going to continue after 9 ends.
Okay, with this in mind, why don't we talk about, like, what the existence of a new X-Wing and the new Stormtrooper helmets mean in context to the story?
Okay, what that means is pretty simple, from what I understand, of the expanded universe, which they're going to kind of look at for some...
No, they didn't. No, they came forward and they're like, there's no expanded universe whatsoever.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm not saying it's canon, but like as like a guideline. Like an inspiration, you could kind of say.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Basically, not all the Stormtroopers were on the Death Star when it blew up, obviously.
Yeah.
So we're going to have the Imperial Remnants, a very popular thing in the expanded universe. I hope they keep that, because it makes complete logical sense.
Yeah.
Because it would be idiotic to assume that the Empire just...
Yeah, it is true. Like,
away.
when you think of, like, the Nazis, when Hitler died,
okay, Max,
Nazis weren't dead.
That is the second time you brought up Nazis this episode.
Well, no,
Max,
look, George Lucas took a lot of inspiration from World War II and the Nazis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so,
but anyway,
I mean...
the important thing is this. Right, we're going to get the Imperial Remnants, but also, if you remember, the Rebel Alliance defeated the Empire. Like, who's taking over, who's in charge now? It's pretty much the people in charge of the Rebel Alliance. So the X-Wings are going to be the new clone trooper, the AR something fighters, or whatever, like the official fighters of the government, the galactic government.
What if then this new like generation of like Jedi or whatever start to see that the Rebellion's ideals are kind of whack? Like they're only useful when they're dealing against the Empire, but when they're trying to maintain peace, like
also,
it's like.
That would actually kind of like that would okay. Well, my biggest problem with Star Wars, and it is the only like major problem I have, is that it is in effect pretty cut and dry. It is good versus evil, which can work, and they do it very well. Yeah. And Darth Vader is not just pure evil; he's my favorite film villain because there's so much more to that character.
Exactly.
However, it does boil down to all the rebels are good guys. All the Empire are evil bad guys, except Vader, except he's kind of bad, but he gets redemption.
But to be fair in that regard, it's an incredibly large universe.
Yes,
so I feel keeping that cut and dry allows us to follow it a little bit more easily.
Yes, but what if we could one-up the original trilogy in that regard?
And that's why we're making another one.
Right, and it's not just good versus evil. Maybe they do think... Maybe they do see some problems.
I mean,
however, the only downside of that is that it looks like they're bringing in like this overarching the ancient order of the Sith, which is definitely going to be all bad guys, and that's what I think Max von Sydow is head of.
Yeah.
We might fall back to some black and white, but hopefully they take this opportunity to...
You think Max von Sydow is like going to be like... Because if you want to like bring back the Sith Order, like he's going to be that kind of character?
Well, that was another thing that was kind of leaked, is that we've got this... Like, even Vader was actually under the command... I mean, even Sidious was kind of in league with this much bigger Sith group.
Okay.
You know?
Before we get to the villains, I do want to say, not to bring this up again, but the first Captain America was very defined.
Okay, Max, third time with Nazis. Stop.
For God's
Nazis,
sakes.
Hydra.
Yeah,
Hydra.
It was good versus evil, right?
Kind of, yeah. Well, no, yeah.
Winter Soldier,
Captain America
much grayer, much more like who is the... I mean, they could do the same thing. I wouldn't mind that. I mean, not like that if they rip it off, no, but like if they do the same thing where they take the ideals of like... If they take the black and white sort of era-ish kind of ways of the original trilogy and kind of stack it up and make it smarter and like actually look into the black and white world that the Star Wars universe like was when it first came out, I think you can make a great story out of that.
Yeah, that's something that the prequels tried to do, especially with Episode 3.
That really is what the
Jedi were trying to... They were doing the power play too. They were playing the same game.
Yeah, they were trying to take over the Senate.
Kind of.
But
to be fair, they had good reason to. But still, yeah, the prequels did try to get into that gray area. I mean, just the way it depicted Anakin becoming, going to the dark side for kind of honorable intentions, partially not. It was very gray area whether or not his actions were justified. A lot of times they weren't, but sometimes they were. So hopefully, yeah, we can take that same idea of like maybe this isn't so black and white and apply it to an entire trilogy. Really, it only came in Episode 3. In the prequels. So hopefully that's the entire trilogy. We have to deal with it's not so simple.
Yeah.
That'd be good. And that would help the original trilogy. That would be great because I could honestly say they one-upped the original trilogy in this respect, even if the movies aren't as good, it's going to be really hard to do. I'm not going to rule it out, but it's going to be really hard to make Episode 7 as good as 4, 5, or 6.
So, okay, with that in mind, why don't we get to the villains? Because, as we've... this will be the first time in the series that Palpatine will not be anywhere in the story. Anywhere.
Right.
Well,
He's
done. During the prequels, he was there. You could tell it was gonna happen. Whatever. This, even though there will be remnants of the Empire, there's no Palpatine, there's no Vader, there's no none of that. So what are you gonna do? They're gonna have to introduce a new kind of villain, right?
Yeah, that's what I think. The Sith Order. There's a name for it. I can't remember. It's some ancient Sith Order because the Sith are much bigger than just the two of them.
Yeah. Okay. It's funny. It's funny.
So is it are you talking about a Hydra-esque, extremist Sith kind of thing?
No.
On the side?
Okay. There are a bajillion Sith in the expanded universe, which again, I know they're decanonizing. That's awesome.
Doing it, right.
By the way, I wanted to bring that up eventually. I'm really happy.
Haven't we had that discussion on a past CinemaTalk? Have we before? I think we mentioned it at least.
Yeah, we've mentioned it. Anyway, the expanded universe can go away, and it did. So
yeah. As far as this, you can't recall all that stuff. You can't keep it in your narrative. It's too much. It's too crazy. But anyway, right. What were you saying, Sean? Go on.
Basically, what I was saying is, what was I saying? I totally lost my train of thought with that.
You were talking about the other Sith
villain. The Sith thing is this it's even bigger than even the Emperor was. So he was answering to some people this whole time. I don't know. That's as much as I understand it.
Well, you got to go bigger, and if you're going to go bigger, you might as well go with that. So we've talked about a lot of stuff here, and I think we all have a lot of interesting things that we want to see.
Hold on, Larry. I have one more speculation.
Okay, here we go.
I speculate that the score composed by John Williams will be awesome. I know that's really kind of a stretch, but
what
I'm gonna go ahead and say that.
Max, okay, I'm gonna cut this part out. We can't make such controversial statements on this podcast, Max.
I know, but it just there's a
first you bring up the Nazis, then you bring up John Williams doing a good job. Come on, Max.
Max,
stop with the clickbait. We can get views on our own.
Our fan base is gonna get so commenty about all the stuff you're saying.
Anyway, Max, what was the point you were going to make with that obvious statement?
It is going to be good music to listen to.
And I think it's going to be great for John Williams to once again... Because, composers have their great scores. And John Williams has had quite a few of them.
Yep.
We should do a podcast on film scores and stuff.
Okay.
Don't worry, guys. You'll get it one day. Don't worry, fans. That doesn't exist. You'll get it one day.
All right. I'm going to berate Sean about that later. Anyway, so, he's had a few. He's had quite a bit in the past. E.T., obviously, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Jurassic Park.
Harry Potter, Home Alone, it just keeps going, Jurassic Park.
Tons of great songs by John Williams. But I don't think he's had that monumental of a score in quite a while. It's been a while since.
Yeah, I think the last really big theme that he did was Harry Potter back in 2001.
Yeah, I don't think
that was him. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was him.
You could talk about when you talk about things like the Avengers theme, Alan Silvestri. That's a very modern movie, and I think that was a great score.
Oh yeah,
you can easily recall that. But with John Williams, it's been a while since he's really delved into a score that most people would think of. I think this is his chance to bring himself back into the spotlight, almost eternally, because you have this opportunity to bring so many more, because music has evolved so much. There's so many ways you can bring in new elements into this kind of a score. And as a music guy, I will be listening keenly for that. Also, I want to hear the Cantina theme at least once, at least. And it's got, and I don't want no stupid thing where they remix it with electronica or some shit. No. I want to hear the jazzy Cantina theme. All right. I don't want.
That's a really funny thought.
Shit. No, because I see so many songs. That are classic, and they put beats to them, and sometimes they work, but most times they don't. I
love electronic mixed with orchestra. I love that stuff.
I know. Max is a very big house fan. I know, and sometimes it works, but I want to hear that crisp jazz sound.
Okay. Listen, I know that we have to go soon, but I want to bring up one more thing regarding speculation. I want to talk about the marketing. This is something that I think is very important, especially to Star Wars, because it really is, as so many critics have put it, like one of the most economically bulletproof franchises out there. So really, it doesn't really, like, you don't have to put out anything to get people to go see a Star Wars movie, right?
They will, and they should.
No, they will, and they should, but they don't have to. They really don't have to. You hear Episode 7, you're going to go to the theater.
Here's what I think they should do. 2 trailers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
everyone does 3.
2.
Mm-hmm.
I say do 2. The first one is just a teaser. Show maybe a tiny bit of actual film. The second is more like what we traditionally see as a teaser trailer. 90 to 100 seconds, kind of brief, very vague, don't get too much plot details, and that's it. I think this is a time where keeping it a secret or keeping things hidden will be a big help. This is Star Wars. This is a legendary franchise. If you step in and say, hey guys, here's what we're doing with Star Wars, I'm sure people get excited. I mean, people are still going to go. Again, it's bulletproof.
And honestly, though I don't mean to bring this up again, I think one of the reasons why a lot of people were disappointed with Episode 1 was, honestly, like, the trailers and everything that leading up to it were so freaking incredible.
Yeah, but...
Like, you watch, like, the first Star Wars Episode 1 trailer, it's remarkable. It's really good. And, like...
I actually don't know if I've seen it.
Yeah, it's great, and it ends with, like, this crazy climactic with... You know, it totally gives you that original trilogy vibe. And I think if you can just, like, get away with that, it would be totally great. Now, I do have a feeling that they're going to, like, stay away from classicalism for whatever reason. Like, well, and what I mean by that is, like, let's see. For going back to Harry Potter for a second, in the Deathly Hallows trailer, there was, like, a really weird, like, climactic version of the original theme. It was really weird. I liked it, but it was really weird. And I feel like Disney might do that with Star Wars. I don't know. Not Disney, but the marketing team.
Well, as much as you... I think one of the main things... I want to bring this up really quickly. You obviously are catering to one of the largest nostalgic followings of all time.
Yeah,
when you're dealing with
Star Wars means something to, like, almost everybody. Not everybody, but almost everybody.
If you haven't been somehow affected by Star Wars, I don't think you've really been involved with pop culture all that much.
Yeah, and I do wonder. I believe that May the 4th, 2015, we will get something. We have to get something.
I really hope so. Like, because I was so disappointed when we saw nothing.
Yeah, I do wonder what the subtitle will be. I do wonder.
That's something we should definitely talk about once it's announced.
Yeah, because
not a full podcast, but I
really hope they stick to, like, the old classical format that George Lucas looked to, Attack of or Return of, and, you know, like, instead of, like, using, like, a word like resurrection or something. You know, because that's not Star Wars. Like, Star Wars...
No, they won't do single word.
Yeah, they won't. Yeah,
they can't. They can't. But as I was mentioning very quickly before, I think the important thing to realize here is that though we are Star Wars fans, and though you are dealing and hopefully catering in some respect to one of the largest nostalgic fan bases of all time, you still have to realize that we are introducing a different... A new fan base in a way. We are injecting more people. I just said injecting, which once again brings back memories of the Nazis.
Okay. So you brought it there.
I did a lot. I've done a
Get
lot of.
Out.
I've done a lot of research on that. Anyway, so we're getting so many new fans. It's important that we.
Yeah, are we?
Why wouldn't we?
Are we?
What do you mean? Are we?
Like,
who out there hasn't seen Star Wars?
Okay, there are people I know who haven't seen Star Wars, but, like,
me too.
Who out
I know
there,
one
like,
person
has not already known that they should see Star Wars? Like, who's been like, "What's the Star Wars? What's that?" Like,
but
I think maybe you're thinking about the new generation.
Yeah, I'm talking about a new generation.
Okay.
Even then,
fans.
I've known that Darth Vader is Luke's father. I don't remember learning that. That's how long I've known it.
Yeah, I've known that for as long as I can remember.
I know, but see, there's this thing though.
That means I saw them as a little kid. Everyone has.
Sean, how old are you, Sean?
I'm 20.
You're 20, right?
Yeah.
You saw those movies when you were younger. There are new, younger kids. There's a huge difference.
Right, and
between
the age I was when I saw the original trilogy is a lot of times the age that the new trilogy would be for this new generation.
Yes, and as I'm trying to finish my thought here, again, there's a big difference, especially coming from me, who's a younger fan and who's been on multiple sides of the equation many times with many different properties. There's a big difference between growing up and being a part of a franchise revival or a new franchise, and then, like, maybe 20 years after its it already happened and there's such a fan base, you just watch it to be part of the craze. I bet if I talked to somebody like you, Sean, who saw them when they had already come out when you were younger, and then somebody who actually was there when Star Wars was like the first ever Star Wars like theater was being shown and things like that, there's a difference. It's not the same thing. The nostalgia is a bit stronger on one end. So we have a new generation of kids who are going to walk into theaters and see the brand new Star Wars trilogy. Like there's a new generation walking into this, and I'm really excited for that.
You know, it's weird. That generation is going to look at the original trilogy as a series of prequels.
Yeah.
That's going to be weird.
That's going to be really weird. But I feel the best part about it is that J.J. Abrams, I think he knows this. And I think he's really taking it in stride that he does this. Because although he is, of course, catering to nostalgic fans and doing all these hints and things like that, I really want them to I want them to have their own... I want this trilogy to be different. I want this trilogy to be more... I just want it to also cater to them, too. Because you can't just make a film strictly for the fans. Even with a fan base this large. It's kind of... It's hard to say that Star Wars is niche, because it's not. Because everybody knows it. But it's just... I don't want them to... For example, I wouldn't want somebody to walk into Star Wars Episode VII without seeing the other movies and be lost. I don't like that idea.
Sure.
I would want them to actually... I want them to be able to get in this trailer, in these episodes, as much as somebody else could have with 4, 5, and 6, if not having seen 1, 2, and 3. I'm really excited for to have brand new Star Wars fans who really feel like they're in it, who are going to these new movies and are feeling excited. It's such a good feeling to have more people joining in who actually are legitimately there. It's just a nice thought to think about, especially because no one thought this would happen.
Well,
at least I didn't think we get a new Star Wars trilogy.
I feel like
for so many years.
And that doesn't even factor in all the spin-off movies that are also coming out. I mean, that's going to be crazy.
By the way, they need to make a Jango Fett movie.
Why? Who the fuck? Sorry.
Because you pull a Casino Royale. Bond isn't a very interesting character because he's kind of empty now and he's just a killer. So is Jango. Casino Royale showed how he got that way. Show how Jango got that way. Bada bing, bada boom, you got yourself a great movie. Don't call it Django Unchained.
I was wondering when somebody was going to
obvious joke is obvious.
That's a whole speculation for another day.
Yes,
what is Rian Johnson doing with his spin-off film?
Yeah, we don't know.
No, you mean Gareth Edwards.
Oh.
Yeah, Johnson's getting
right,
made.
Gareth Edwards, right.
The director of Godzilla.
But Gareth Edwards, I know Gareth Edwards is dealing with this now, because Gareth Edwards has announced that he's not doing another Godzilla film until at least 3 or 4 years down the line.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So he's working on this first and foremost. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. But I think as of, just on that final note, we're all really excited.
Hell yeah.
One final
It's a
note.
new Star Wars movie. There's no reason to not get excited.
I have one final note.
This is going to be great.
Just a question for you two.
Okay.
2015, Disney is going to make the most money by... It's not even going to be funny how much they make next year.
Right. Yeah.
Which will make more? Star Wars Episode VII or Avengers Age of Ultron?
Star Wars.
And this will be the deciding factor of what the age that we live in. And if Star Wars has really been left behind or if it's just always been there.
Is Star Wars big enough as a cultural impact to overcome the new biggest name in culture?
That's a really good
in
question.
Pop culture?
I'm really looking forward to that.
I'm
going to go ahead and say Ultron. I'm going to go ahead and say it.
I think so too. I personally think Ultron's going to break the 2 billion mark.
2 billion? I think it's going to break a billion. I think both are going to break a billion.
The first Avengers got 1.5 billion worldwide. Right. So
it just made it too. Like it just barely got up to 1 billion by the end of it. So
wait, which did?
Avengers.
No, Avengers is at 1.5 billion.
I meant the there's another landmark. Did it hit another landmark in its opening weekend besides the billion?
Well, anyway,
or did it hit the billion?
I think Ultron's going to make more, personally, because I think the new...
Hold on.
Disagree.
I'm going to go ahead and say Star Wars. I believe it's like a more, like...
Yeah.
It demands attention a little bit more, because with Avengers, like, it's just, it's a steady stream of franchise. With Star Wars Episode VII, this is an event. This is a cultural event. The beginning of a new... What?
Domestic, Star Wars is going to win. Worldwide, Avengers is going to win.
Yes.
You know what? That is a good
that.
point. I'm going to go ahead and say yes to that.
You heard it here. That's what we're going to put our bets on come end of 2015 when we have the box office figures for Episode 7.
I think it's just because Star Wars is so deeply rooted with so many... Because, like, for example, my dad loves Star Wars. He saw Star Wars. Okay? But I talked to him about Marvel movies, and he's told me, this is his words, the Avengers put him to sleep.
Ugh.
Literally. The Avengers put him to sleep. So clearly, the older generation who love Star Wars aren't really into the Marvel thing.
Yeah.
So I think Star Wars is
whatever.
probably going to do more domestic.
I think it's weird that like this trilogy will end in about 10 years. You guys notice that? Like literally 10 years from now, we will see the end of this trilogy. That
What?
is going to be weird.
No, we're not.
Yeah, it's every 3 years, right?
Every 2.
Every 2? Oh!
8
Oh,
is coming
okay.
out in 17.
6.
I thought it was coming out in 18, and then okay, never mind. Okay.
On that,
6.
On that
strong
note, on that
no.
completely inaccurate note,
terrible note.
this has been fun.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
been fun.
This
And
has been great. I
Also,
really-
this is
I'm
going to be
actually glad
so
we did
easy
this
for me to do music on because it's just any Star Wars song that I
Any
like.
Star
Please
Wars
put the
song.
love theme from episode 2 on there. Please.
Nope.
And
That's a
actually,
great
if you're
theme.
curious,
Nope.
if any of you are curious, I actually put a Star Wars song on the Celebrity Deaths episode. So, no, it was the last episode, the Age of Information episode. I put a Star Wars song in there.
Because I think
you can
I brought up the
spot it.
whole Star Wars
Yes.
thing. Yeah.
Okay, well, we should wrap it up.
Yeah.
Right, let's wrap it up. Guys, this was awesome. I'm glad we did this episode.
Yeah.
Yes.
Leave us your thoughts about Star Wars Episode 7 in the comments down below.
Definitely.
What do you want to see? What do you think will happen? Political undertones, cast,
Actually-
locations, weapons.
Yeah, speaking of which, if you ever get the chance, guys, look up Star Wars Empire of Dreams. A great documentary about the creation of the original trilogy, and it's actually very good. I suggest everybody watches it before Episode 7 comes out to give you the idea of how this franchise started.
This episode of CinemaTalk brought to you by whatever Max just mentioned.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
And it did give me a few
obligatory
ideas to think
advertising.
about regarding the Star Wars trilogy.
Okay,
Right.
so we really should
Yes, let's wrap. Yeah, let's wrap.
Oh my
this up.
god,
Bye.
it sounds like Sean
Bye.
is literally leaving right now.
Bye. I'm Larry Freed,
I'm Sean Capdeville.
And I'm Max Manor, and we're saying last names apparently.
and may the Force be with you.
Yeah, wait, why are we doing last names? That's weird.
I don't care.
Always.
May the
That was-
Force be with you. Bye.
Yes,
Always.
Force. God, we're nerds. I love it.